All right. Okay. So, welcome everybody. And thank you so much for joining me on this talk that is very close to my heart. Um, I think most of you know me, but some of you might not. And I am a breast cancer survivor, and it created a complete transformation and a change in almost every single aspect of my life. And it led me to specialize in cancer coaching, which is what I am doing now with a particular passion in cancer prevention. And this masterclass is a part of that. And it is one of the services that I'm offering so that people can resource themselves and learn how to prevent cancer and live healthfully and wholesomely. So, a question for everybody before we go into the slideshow. How many of you woke up tired this morning? Not so great, just feeling a little bit like a half battery, or did you jump out of bed with a full battery? And keep your hands up if you're also dealing with concentration problems, memory problems, persistent digestive issues, aches and pains, skin problems, depression, anxiety. So all of these are communication from your body. It's all symptoms where your body is trying to tell you something and it's trying to get your attention. And we just need to learn how to listen to our bodies. Linz, you've got your hand up. Oh, yeah. So who am I? So just briefly, I was born in Joburg, raised in Cape Town, and I settled in the Garden Route. So I've pretty much done the whole tour of South Africa. And I settled here in 2022 after my cancer treatment. And I've got a BA in psychology and sociology, diplomas in nutrition and counseling. I was a landmark self-expression and leadership coach. And I'm particularly passionate about the intersection between disconnection, how we have become disconnected from our bodies, from all aspects of ourselves, from our relationships, from nature, from the earth. Because the more disconnected we have become in our lifestyles, it seems that the more ill we are becoming. So this is really where my main interest lies. So my journey obviously in 2021 COVID happened, and then in 2021 I lost my mom and my aunt both to cancer. And then in 2021 I received a highly aggressive triple negative breast cancer diagnosis, which it came as a shock, and it also didn't, because there's so much cancer in both sides of my family. And I had quite a sketchy health history, which only subsequent to my cancer journey have I really learned was all messages and flags showing that there was something really deeply wrong at a systemic level, but nobody was picking this up and seeing the story. So it eventually culminated in a serious cancer diagnosis. I went through conventional treatment, a very aggressive chemotherapy regime. I nearly died in that process. I got neutropenic septicemia, which put me in hospital on an antibiotic drip for 5 days. It was literally caught in the nick of time. I did manage to get through chemo. It was kicking and screaming because my history has always been a preference for natural treatments. And I then had a lumpectomy, which came out with no evidence of disease, which means that they couldn't find any cancer cells. And then they lined me up for radiation, at which point I had studied a lot about cancer, about treatments, about natural healing, and about the impacts of conventional treatments and how they kind of used as a blanket approach, never mind what the specific situation is in an individual's body. And when I pressed my oncologist, she said it would only make about a 2% difference, possibly. And at that point, I just said, no, thank you. I'm not going to put my body through that level of trauma, especially after chemo and surgery, for a 2% chance. And just as well, I didn't do the radiation because exactly a year later, I had a recurrence in the other breast. By that stage, I had been tested and I discovered that I had the BRCA gene, which is the breast cancer gene, which makes you very susceptible to breast cancer, ovarian cancer, and pancreatic cancer. And when I had the MRI, which picked up the recurrence, I just said, I'm not doing any more treatment. And at that point in time, my whole entire life was blowing up. I was going through a relationship breakup. I had realized that city living was not the place for me. It was a toxic way of life, and I really needed to be walking my talk and living in a natural environment, growing my own food, breathing fresh air, drinking clean water. So I was also in the throes of relocating to the garden route, and there was just a whole lot of stuff going on. And the last thing that I needed at that point was a breast cancer recurrence. But stress is a massive factor in breast cancer. It's a really big factor. So it pretty much was quite understandable that it happened. And so I went to Bali for a month. And in Bali, I found some really, really, really beautiful herbs and supplements and raw food restaurants. I did yoga. I spent a lot of time outdoors. I did breath work, a whole lot of alternative healing modalities. And then I came back and I decided that I was going to do the surgery, the double mastectomy surgery, because I consulted with my natural doctor and he just said that with BRCA, he'd seen it go so badly wrong with so many people. And because obviously I was in a state of really high stress, it really was just going to give myself the benefit and the insurance that I needed to restart my life without having that monkey on my back, because I will not do chemo again. So 6 weeks after the recurrence, I went into surgery and they couldn't find a trace of any cancer at all, which is really amazing. And it just went to show, it goes to show that doing the natural treatments and using the plants, using the herbs, using the supplements, I'd had my genetics done, so I knew which of my pathways were working and not working, which of my genes needed support, which were, misfiring, and how to really hold that inside of a holistic healing process and paradigm. And because I hadn't done the radiation, they were able to do reconstruction. If I'd have done the radiation on the other breast, they would not have been able to do reconstruction because the skin is so damaged. So, yes, and then I devoted my life to cancer coaching. And this is what I have been doing since then. I live on a beautiful farm, and I have never, ever in my life felt better than I do now. So, cancer is a lifestyle disease. So, cancer, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, neurodegenerative disorders, autoimmune, pulmonary issues, all of these are diseases that are caused by how we are living. And lifestyle diseases are what we have created in the Western world. It is everything that we are eating. It's what we put on our fork and into our mouth, what we're putting on our bodies every single day, the actions that we're taking or not taking, whether to exercise or to sit and watch, Netflix, or to scroll on our computers on social media, the environments we live in, the air we're breathing, water we're drinking, our stress levels, our work, and so on. All of this makes up our lifestyle. And what we have done as Westerners is we have sanitized our world so that we can control it. And we have destroyed the richness and the diversity that defines nature. And we are nature. It is only Westerners who have taken ourselves out of nature and put ourselves on the top of a pyramid, believing that we are separate from and better than nature, when our body is made up of trillions of bacterium and microbes and all sorts of things. We are more microbe than we are human, and we live in this beautiful synergy with these microbes and these bacteria. So yeah, it really would be a beautiful thing for us to remember this, because it is where our illness or our health hinges on. So, in that vein, I would like to touch on germ theory versus terrain theory. So, some of you might have heard of this before. But in brief, germ theory means that if I am around somebody who is ill, and say, for example, they sneeze close to me and I breathe in the germs, I will automatically get sick. And then I need to go to the doctor and I need to get medication to make me better. That's germ theory in a nutshell. Terrain theory talks about our whole entire body as an internal terrain. And we can be around people that are sick and not get sick when our system is functioning as it is supposed to, and our immune system is able to detect and deal with whatever pathogen and virus and issue is coming at us when we breathe in those germs from that person sneezing. So it is, as you can see with these two little goldfish, the one is medicate the fish and the other one is clean the tank. So clear out everything that is hurting and harming our bodies so that it becomes the self-healing biological machine that it is designed to be. And I thought I would do something fun. I've created what I've called these health archetypes. So I'd like you to just have a look and see which one you identify with. So the first one is the YOLO. You only live once. Their motto is we're all going to die anyway. They live fast and they don't care about any consequences to their actions. Then there's the ostrich. Ignorance is bliss. What I don't know can't hurt me. I don't think that anybody here would be either of those two because those two generally won't be interested in a talk like this. Then there's the quick fixer. There's a poll for that. Manages symptoms, not root causes. My ex was one of those. He went to the doctor for absolutely everything, including a sprained eyebrow, and he would come back with a whole pile of pills. And the supplement stacker, I'm covered. I take everything. They've got a cabinet full of supplements, but the lifestyle is unchanged. I used to be this. I used to think that I could drink the coffee and I could drink the wine as long as I was taking my probiotics and my milk thistle and my liver support, I was going to be fine. And yeah, that's not quite a realistic way of looking at things. Then there's the trained hopper. I'm trying the latest biohack, jumps from extreme to extreme. And then finally, the health investor. What I do today shapes my future. They think long term and do the work. So I am a converted supplement stacker. I am now a health investor. So yeah, I would love to know if anybody wants to share in the chat what you identify with. And just bear that in mind as we go through the talk. So breast cancer awareness. I know this talk is really about cancer in general, but I do have a particular passion for breast cancer, and breast cancer awareness is probably something that we're all familiar with in terms of campaigns. Now, what breast cancer awareness is focused on is screenings and then subsequent what's called standard of care treatment, which is chemo, surgery, radiation. And a lot of the pink ribbon initiatives are actually funded by the very companies that are producing the kinds of foods and things that are harming us, whether it's, yogurt companies, dairy, meat, ultra processed food companies. So there's a vested interest because, they're making money from selling their things. They're also making money because people are getting sick and then they're needing to go into treatment. And big pharma and medicine is it's quite an interesting animal. I would highly recommend you look into the Rockefeller Institute and the first medical school. So that is a very interesting little rabbit hole to go down. It's one of those follow the money things. So I'm not going to talk about it now because I'd be here all night. But if you're interested, please do go and have a look at that. So I firmly believe that we need to be focusing our efforts rather on prevention, on educating people around cancer, on how to prevent cancer, as opposed to raising more and more money for studies that haven't really seemed to make any difference in reducing breast cancer rates because they're increasing and people are getting breast cancer younger and younger. Most of my breast cancer clients are in their late 30s. They're young moms in their late 30s, and it's just absolutely devastating. So yeah, early detection is important, but prevention is essential. Okay, so what is cancer? So cancer essentially arises when our cells are damaged through a process called oxidative stress, and they aren't eliminated by the immune system. Instead, they proliferate out of control, and then eventually they will create a tumor. That's just a very, very simplified version. And the immune system is designed to target and remove cancer cells. That is one of its jobs, only when it's functioning properly. So the tumor is a symptom of a body that is out of balance because we're getting cell damage, we're getting proliferation, we're having an immune system that is under functioning. So remember about the germ theory and terrain theory. It's a whole entire internal terrain that isn't doing what it is designed to do. And there's too much damage in the body, and there's too little detection from the immune system. So a tumor is a message from our body to say that the way we are living is killing us and we need to make changes. It is not a death sentence. A lot of people think when they get a cancer diagnosis, or if they get a cancer diagnosis, they're going to die. That is not true. There are so many things that one can do to heal cancer out of the body, and bringing the body into balance, which is really the topic of tonight's talk, is the most important thing. And then, fun fact, only 5 to 10% of cancers are genetic. 95% or 90 to 95% of women with breast cancer do not have the BRCA gene, which is the one that causes breast cancer, nor a first degree relative with cancer, which just points again to the fact that this is not a genetic disease, as it is said to be. It is a systemic disease that is driven by lifestyle choices. And the really empowering thing about that is it means that we can do something about it. It means that we have power and we have agency. Okay. So cancer is caused by a collision of multiple factors creating the systemic failure in the body. Oxidative stress is when we have free radicals in our body causing DNA damage. Chronic inflammation, which impacts our immune function. And an overwhelmed liver, unable to process all the toxins that we are consuming. Acidity, and more. So oxidative stress, essentially it's free radicals which are actually produced naturally by the body through cell metabolism. But what happens is when we're exposed to toxins and chronic stress and a sedentary lifestyle, there is an excess of free radicals. So the damage becomes too much. And yeah, the toxic levels are tipping the scales into having, a damage that the body isn't able to keep up with. This comes through pesticides, smoking, alcohol, pollution, heavy metals, chronic stress, even excessive exercise. So we always want to do moderate exercise, because if we're exercising too hard, then we're causing too much free radicals and oxidative stress in our body. Then we have systemic inflammation, which comes from a condition called leaky gut. Now, I would assert that the majority of us Westerners have leaky gut. And what happens is when we're consuming seed oils, gluten, refined sugar, processed foods, microplastics, chronic medication, all of these things are causing damage to the one cell thick membrane in our colon. And what happens with this damage is it starts to separate. So instead of just the nutrients moving through this membrane and then going into our blood to be distributed around our body to all of our organs, we've got toxins moving through, we've got pathogens moving through, we've got undigested food particles moving through. The immune system goes, oh no, danger, danger, danger. And it creates this huge immune response, which creates inflammation. And when we are consuming things 3 times a day, 5 times a day, all day, every day, this inflammation is chronic, which means it is constant and ongoing. It is this low level burn inside of our body. And this is at the root of our lifestyle diseases, inflammation. And we all pretty much have it, unless we're living a very, very clean lifestyle. So yeah, so it's inflammation that's causing our cancers, our neurodegenerative diseases, our autoimmune diseases. They're saying that 50% of women over 50 are now being diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and it comes back to leaky gut. So our immune system, 70% of our immune system is located in our gut. And when we have a depleted gut microbiome, it's not able to resource and teach our immune system how to work. We are losing beneficial bacteria at a huge rate, We're doing this through the toxins that we're consuming, through glyphosate, which is the pesticide and herbicide they spray on fruits and vegetables. They feed this to animals. We then eat the animals and they concentrate these pesticides in their tissues. I'm going to tell you a very scary story soon about that as well. Um, Antibiotics. So glyphosate is essentially an antibiotic, and antibiotics destroy the gut microbiome. It doesn't distinguish between the bad bacteria and the good bacteria. And of course, a lack of fiber. People are eating so much ultra processed food these days that they're not eating fiber, which we get from fruits and vegetables and whole grains. And even though we're eating a lot of calories during the day, we are incredibly nutrient deficient. We're overfed and we're undernourished in today's modern way of living. And of course, medication also affects our gut microbiome. So this leads to a reduced ability to detect and eliminate cancerous cells, as well as dealing with bugs and things, which is why a lot of people get sick so frequently. I mean, some people don't get sick at all because they've got a strong immune system. Other people get sick every time there's a change of season, and we don't need to be doing that. And then, of course, lack of regular detoxification. So the liver is our body's project manager. It works really hard for us. It does over 500 functions. The most important is to deal with toxins and to process them. It also deals with hormones, with glucose, with producing bile. It's got a big job. So we really need to respect it and look after it and give it a little bit of love and support. And when it's overwhelmed by everything that we're consuming, it can't remove all the toxins effectively. And these start building up in the body, which then contribute to the DNA damage, the systemic inflammation, and the immune repression. So, as our exposure to toxins increase, so does our rate of disease. And it's like if you were standing and packing things on a conveyor belt, say, for example, there were Christmas crackers coming down this conveyor belt and you were putting them into boxes. And slowly but surely, the conveyor belt started to get faster and faster, and you're having to put more and more of these into the box as you go. And then there's more and more coming at a faster rate. So now the volume has increased, the speed has increased. They're all going to start falling off, and you're going to lose control. This is pretty much what's happening as we are putting all of these toxins on and in our body, completely unaware to a large extent. We're aware of some toxins, but not of all of them. And I have a lot of people who say to me, but I live really healthy. I eat vegetables. I work out. A lot of vegetarians and vegans get cancer. But, when you're eating stuff that's not organic and has been sprayed and hasn't been grown in rich, beautiful, nutrient dense, diverse soil, you're nutrient deficient and your gut is taking strain. So, I hope you can start to see a picture forming. So, then the symptoms of inflammation and toxic overload, chronic fatigue. Most people that I know these days are complaining about chronic fatigue, brain fog, difficulty with focus, with memory issues, low mental clarity, yeah, just general lack of ability to think, to plan effectively, and to, work towards goals. We land up just in survival mode, just trying to get from one day to the next. Skin issues are a big sign of congestion and detox because when our liver is overloaded and it can't process the toxins, it takes them to the skin because the skin is our largest detox organ, and then it starts to push the toxins through the skin. So if you're starting to see any skin issues, that is often a sure sign that your liver is needing support. Digestive problems, hormonal imbalances, because as I said, our liver processes hormones. Weight issues, particularly around the belly area. Increased sensitivities to smells often is an indication of liver. Dark circles under the eyes. ADHD, anxiety, and depression are linked to being overly toxified. And then just a general sense of feeling off. Okay. So, one of the biggest drivers of increasing cancer rates is toxins. And the amount of toxins that we have in the world now are exponentially higher than they have been at any previous time. I mean, with every generation, it goes up exponentially. Our great great grandparents were living practically, they were picking stuff off the earth, out of the trees, off the bushes. They were growing their own food. They weren't going to a supermarket and taking a packet off the shelf and eating that, which is, there's a little saying that says if your great great grandmother wouldn't recognize it, then your body won't either. So we are all exposed to over 700,000 toxins daily via the environment, food, body products, water, and the air. Over 80,000 chemicals are used in consumer products, and most people have over 700 different chemicals in their bodies. Only 1% have been thoroughly tested for safety. That is a really, really scary number. So these toxins can be absorbed through the skin. They can be inhaled in the air or they can be ingested. Sorry, if there's anybody who hasn't muted yourselves, won't you please just mute so that we don't
Sorry,
hear.
I don't know where to do it.
Hang on a second. I think I can. Well, I don't know. Linz, are you able to just do a mute all? No, there we go. Okay, great. Sorry, I just know that sometimes when there's background noise, then it takes the person off the screen and it puts the other person onto the screen. So yeah, so over only 1% have been thoroughly tested for safety. And these toxins can persist in our bodies for years. There are also categories of toxins called forever chemicals. And what this basically means is it takes the body so long to be able to detox and remove them that, and we are being exposed to them every single day, that we will never, ever be able to get rid of them. And this comes from our Teflon cookware. It comes from waterproof things on your furniture, carpets, waterproof clothes, and then fire retardant surfaces. Those kinds of things have got forever chemicals. So please be very aware of that. And what I was referring to just now is very, very scary that with pregnancy and breastfeeding, pesticides, these forever chemicals, heavy metals, are passed through the placenta and the breast milk into the baby's body. So this means that these little babies are being pumped full of these really harmful toxins from pre-birth. And I really just shudder to think what is going to be happening to their health as they grow up, in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, what the whole health landscape is going to look like. Okay, so we need to know where the toxins are so we can avoid them. Knowledge is always power. And although this is probably quite overwhelming, I really just want you to take what you can and make whatever small changes you are able to make. And this really does form a big part of the workshops that I do and the programs that I run, where I teach people a small little amount every single day over the period of 4 weeks. And we do a detox so that we are supporting the body and we're learning at the same time. And it's really a very powerful way of getting the body clean and clear and also knowing and empowering yourself with how to consume, what to buy, where to buy it, what not to have, what to avoid, and so forth. So the food-based toxins is, as I've mentioned, your glyphosate. So essentially, this is the herbicide and pesticide that is sprayed on crops, fed to animals, and also sprayed on grains. So pretty much everything, if it's not organic, has been exposed to glyphosate, especially when it comes to genetic modification. Those things are highly dependent on glyphosate. And what is also quite scary and alarming is that Bayer, the pharmaceutical company, recently bought Monsanto, the company that makes glyphosate. So Bayer, who make the pharmaceuticals to treat illnesses, now own the company that is producing the poisons that are making people sick. So I'm not going to read any more into that. You can make up your own mind. Of course, toxins include additives, processed food chemicals, alcohol, mycotoxins, which is mold toxins. And there's a big link to mold toxins and cancers. In fact, it is a class 1 carcinogen and protein levels in the body. So we're eating too much protein. And a really fascinating study is called the China study. Highly recommend reading the book or watching the documentary where they studied children in China who had cancer and those that didn't. And they found that the kids that were eating high protein diets were having a cancerous reaction coming from the mycotoxins, whereas the ones that had a low protein diet had the mycotoxins in their body, but they were not activating into a cancerous reaction. So, environmental based toxins, air and water pollution, microplastics. We are consuming approximately 1 credit card's worth of microplastics per week at the moment. That is absolutely alarming. And microplastics also contain xenoestrogens, which I'll get to in the next section. Pesticide residues in our environment. My kitty wants to come and participate. And heavy metals, personal care products. This is a big, big, big one, ladies. Women generally put over 168 chemicals on their bodies per day. Now, remember that there's been only 1% of these chemicals are studied and not in combination with each other. So they can be exponentially more dangerous when they are combined. Yeah, parabens, phthalates, xenoestrogens, which is driving the high rates of estrogen. This is the things that are artificial scents and fragrances. So you want to let go of everything that has got an artificial fragrance, your deodorants, perfumes, scented candles, lotions and creams, shampoos, perfume body wash, washing powders, stay softs. All of those things are causing hormonal imbalance, which is driving cancer. Estrogen fuels cancer, and xenoestrogens are potent in their strength effect. They're much more potent than the body's estrogens. And then there's formaldehyde releasing preservatives, heavy metals in makeup. There's benzene in makeup. And yeah, makeup and personal care products are just a cesspool of toxins, which we really just do not want to be putting on our body. If you wouldn't put it in your mouth, don't put it on your body. 80% of what we put on our body is absorbed into our bloodstream and taken through our whole entire system, making us systemically sick, affecting our organs and affecting our cells. Then there's household toxins, bleach, ammonia, synthetic fragrances, plastics, disinfectant solvents, scented candles, as I said. Dust is also has a lot of possibly carcinogenic compounds in it. And then people are spraying poisons like doom. Please don't do that. There's other ways of dealing with it. You're not only harming your body and your animals, but you're also harming the environment. Pharmaceuticals, medications, too much for too long. A lot of doctors put people on medication and they don't remember. And then people just carry on taking the medication for years and years and years with no review, no checks to see if they're still necessary. So loads of people are taking medications that they actually don't need. And also, if you're looking at nourishing and supporting your body and detoxing your body, all of these symptoms that you're managing with medication from a toxic, inflamed, and DNA damaged system, you no longer need. They just naturally fall away as the body is able to start to heal itself. Of course, chemotherapy, hormone medications are incredibly toxic to the body. Radiation, sun exposure, and aircraft travel. Every time we fly, we're exposed to radiation. So my little top tip here is to just take a kelp tablet or put some iodine because iodine protects you against radiation. And as far as the sun exposure goes, I just want to talk about sunscreen because what sunscreen does is it blocks certain rays, but what it actually does is because of that, we don't feel like we're getting hot and we're burning. So we stay in the sun a lot longer than we should. And there are even more harmful rays that don't get blocked. So now we're in the sun for a lot longer than what we would be if we weren't wearing anything. And we're actually getting even more harmful radiation. So personally, I just use some, I think it's wheat germ oil is the best one. It's got one of the highest SPF factors. Or you can just use coconut oil and then just spend small amounts in the sun and cover yourself, wear a hat, wear a nice light top, something that can just protect your skin, or natural sun creams. I make my own. Because yeah, you don't want to be also they are full of chemicals, not on you and definitely not on your kids. So continuing with toxins, the known class 1 carcinogens, glyphosate, which is the pesticide and herbicide I've spoken about, processed meats. So we're talking about all of your sandwich meats. We're talking about bacon, ham, salami. These are class 1 carcinogens, and people are eating them every single day. They're giving them to their kids on their sandwiches. They're giving to their kids for breakfast. You might as well give your kid a cigarette than continue to give them these class 1 carcinogens. And I know that that's a scary thought, but this is how dangerous they are. And of course, it is cumulative. So when we're eating these things every day, multiple times a day, we really are putting our body at risk. Alcohol. So alcohol is linked to mouth, throat, esophagus, breast, liver cancer, stomach cancer, bowel cancer. Alcohol is one of the top causes of cancer. Aflatoxins, which is the mold toxins, which are found in peanuts, in sweet corn, some grains, peanut butters, some coffee. So yeah, aflatoxins are a tricky one to avoid, but we can lower our risk. And also, as explained, we can make sure that we're not eating like crazy amounts of protein because we really are eating a lot more than we need. And then rice has got arsenic in it, and this is just from the soil. So a way around that is to just soak your rice. If you're going to be eating rice, just soak it overnight and then rinse it out, and then you're good to go. And then PAHs and HCAs. These are compounds that arise when we cook meat. So it's roasted, fried, grilled, smoked, and dried meat. Now, dried is probably the worst because it also produces acrylamide, which is when we blacken things. Like if you burn your toast, don't eat it, or rather just clean it off. Don't eat anything that has been burnt. Acrylamide is a class 2 carcinogen, but the HCAs and the PAHs are these compounds that come when meat is heated to a certain level of temperature and for a certain amount of time. And this is why meat is such a big risk when it comes to anybody who has been diagnosed with cancer, if you're wanting to heal from cancer, and it is a big one to look out for if you're wanting to prevent cancer. And then, of course, the class 1 carcinogens are the benzenes, the phthalates, the heavy metals in our makeup and our personal care products. And I see people letting the little kids play with all of these products. I mean, I think I let my daughter as well. And, those little bodies, we really want to protect them and give them the best chance they can of being strong. Additional cancer drivers is unresolved trauma and repressed emotions. It's really, really important to do your shadow work, to get to, feel what it is that you need to feel. So many of us just push down and carry on going. And I know in my life, I did that for many, many years, for decades. And it resulted in me getting very, very sick. And it is still a daily part of my ongoing healing journey, is dealing with my unresolved trauma and feeling my feelings, which can be hard and icky and uncomfortable. But when we do the work, it is just so incredibly rewarding. Chronic stress, obesity is one of the top 3 causes of cancer. When we have additional fat cells, it drives estrogen. Estrogen drives cancer development and progression. Lack of movement and exercise also has got a big impact with cancer because our lymph is also a big part of our immune system. And that is what is needed to be circulating to take out all of the toxins and remove them from the body that the liver is busy getting rid of. And exercise is just really great in general for endorphins and everything else. Poor sleep is a big thing. When we don't sleep well, we're not getting our melatonin. And melatonin is the hormone that doesn't put us to sleep, which most people believe. It actually heals us while we are sleeping. So sleep hygiene is a big one. Heavy metals and pathogens have got a big role to play in cancer because we are all exposed to heavy metals. And pathogens are our parasites, our viruses, our bad bacteria, our candidas, those kinds of things. And then, of course, mold also is a big one. Mold was a big factor in my cancer diagnosis. If you see black mold, please deal with it. If you can't deal with it, you have to move because it is that serious. The black mold is a class one carcinogen. And then malnourishment. Like I said before, we are overfed, but we are malnourished because not only are we eating all of this ultra processed food, but farming practices now, commercial farming practices, have completely depleted the soil. So there is only a fraction of the amount of nutrients that is in our fruits and vegetables that we buy when we're buying conventional produce that there should be if it is organic and grown, in the old-fashioned way. And it's just a funny thing that we call real fruits and vegetables organic, when it actually should just be real fruit and vegetables as opposed to fruit and vegetables that are poisoned. And I just want to touch on standard of care treatment, which is chemo and radiation. Because when people get diagnosed with cancer, there's so much fear that they're put under and they're pushed with this fear into this very, very intense and destructive treatment protocol, which is a one size fits all. It's a paint by numbers. It doesn't take individual physiology and individual genetics and individual lifestyle into consideration. And if you go to a functional oncologist, they will do this. We will then do the genetic test. We'll see what isn't functioning and what needs support in your body. We will do the detoxification. We'll resource your gut, get your immune system back up on track. Whereas standard of care is just go for the tumor, kill the tumor, and then you're on your way and hope for the best when your system has been all but obliterated. So we need to be very careful in how we choose our treatment path and take time to research all the different options, which is what I do in my cancer coaching. I talk people through all the different options so that they can actually make an educated and empowered decision as to what they want to do versus just having the hell, the being scared to hell and back and then just going into these treatments, which can be incredibly brutal. I mean, I know lots of people that have had to have blood transfusions. I myself nearly died in treatment. And chemotherapy has a global market in 2024 of 34.4 billion. Radiation, 10.5 billion. Chemotherapy rooms is one of the fastest growing venture capitalist investment opportunities, which I find a little bit creepy. And, I'm not saying that oncologists are mean badly. They mean well, but they have studied one thing and they've got one tool, one toolbox, which has got chemosurgery and radiation in it. That's it. And doctors are not looking at the root causes, nor are they looking at systemic healing. They're just looking at obliterate the tumor in any way possible. Doctors actually aren't taught healing in medical school. They're taught about medicine and about treating symptoms. We really need to clock that. It's very important that we clock that because when we have got a body that we are living in, and this body has got to last us a long time, we can't just be getting sick and managing symptoms because then we take medication for symptom A, which causes symptom B, C, and D. We then take medications, and so on we go until eventually we just got all of these chronic medications that we're taking, which is causing DNA damage, oxidative stress, inflammation, and gut depletion and liver congestion. So it's all connected. And they have less than 1 day of nutrition study in their whole entire medical degree. So that does show us something. So it is up to us to empower ourselves and to look after our own body. And the long-term impacts of chemotherapy, mitochondrial dysfunction, which causes chronic fatigue, muscle weakness, organ toxicity, neuropathy, chemobrain, altered immune function, gut damage, nutrient malabsorption, secondary cancers such as leukemia. Oftentimes, 10 years later, people will get these secondary cancers that are caused by the chemotherapy. And it seems unrelated because there's no clear link, but functional medicine studies have found quite a clear link. And then radiation long-term impacts tissue damage and fibrosis, localized immune weakness, site-specific organ damage, and increased risk of cancers in the areas treated. So now we get to the good part. Preventing cancer. How do we prevent cancer? So this is where we are reclaiming our power over our health destiny and over our body. We need to remember that we are not separate from nature and that our body is an incredible, intelligent, self-healing miracle of biology. Our bodies are really amazing. The more I learn about biology and how everything works in this incredible system, I'm just blown away. I'm absolutely blown away. And healing is the innate condition of the human body. So our only job is to resource our body so that it can do its job and to remove what is stopping it from doing its job. Cancer is a disease of disconnection, disconnection from our bodies, from each other, from our communities, and from our ecology. We've removed ourselves from nature and we have sterilized our entire way of living. And nature itself is rich, diverse, and fertile. And we are made up of trillions and trillions and trillions of microbes. We are more microbes than human. And we live in this beautiful synergistic relationship with these microbes and these bacterium. Zach Bush talks about this a lot. I really would recommend, if you don't know him, to go and listen to him. He's got some incredibly motivational and inspirational talks on YouTube. And he came from a cancer background, cancer studying background, and he worked on developing chemotherapy agents. And he realized that he wasn't healing people, so his studies actually led him to the soil. And the further we isolate ourselves from nature, the more ill and addicted we become. And the more stressed we are, the more addicted we become. And then a lot of people get caught in what I call the coffee wine ping pong game, which I used to play before I did my very, very first detox, which completely changed my whole life. Where in the morning we're tired, so we need that caffeine kick to get us up and going. And then we go throughout our day. Oftentimes we have a 3 p.m. crash, and then we need our wine to calm us down. And then so we go on and on and on, not realizing that the caffeine and the wine are actually what are causing our body to feel the way it's feeling. And once we are able to let those go, our body just finds the most incredible strength and vitality that people have no idea was possible. I see this all the time in my detox programs where people don't think that they could possibly get rid of coffee and wine. And they do. They get through the first very difficult days. And then they come out. It's like coming out of the twilight zone. And they're just like, I do not know. I did not know it was possible to feel this good. So I promise you, we can do it. And then not only do we feel good, but we've got all of this energy and this mental clarity to let go of toxic things in our environment. You know, we can often be putting up with toxic jobs, toxic relationships, just stuff in our homes that is neglected or dragging us down. When I did my very first detox, I moved house, I moved office, and I ended a relationship because I realized that I was putting up with things. And the coffee and the wine were just little crutches that were helping me to put up with those things. And it's like coming out of a fog. And then we are so empowered to make real lasting changes and to set tangible, exciting goals where we can then work forward to those in our lives and change the trajectory of our entire life. So, our healing lies in returning to our connection with what birthed our biology, which is this beautiful Mother Earth. Biodiversity and nutrient density is the key to our health and healing. So, in transforming our terrain, which really is what we need to do in order to prevent cancer, what do we do and how do we do this? We remove, repair, resource, revitalize, enrich, so that we can tip the scales from disease to health. We want to nourish our body. We want to hyper nourish our body, this body that works so hard for us, that we've been given a really, really hard time. I often ask my clients, how would they describe their relationship with their body? And it can be quite sobering to see how we can mistreat our bodies and sometimes actually have quite an abusive relationship with our body. So we want to start to shift this and we want to come into a caring, loving, nurturing, and nourishing relationship with our body. And by far the best diet for cancer prevention and for cancer healing is whole food, plant-based. There is tons of research on this. And basically, you want to avoid your ultra processed foods. You want to avoid your meats because there's so many different sides of meats that are carcinogenic. Red meat is a class 2 carcinogen. And then, of course, it's how we cook it. It's the natural hormones in meat that are cancer drivers. So whole food plant-based is really where we want to be, organic. And if we can get fresh and local and support our local farmers, that is even better because the quicker we get it from the farm to the table, the more nutrient dense it is. We want our pre and probiotics to restore our gut microbiome, to bring back that beautiful ecology and diversity to our gut. We want the antioxidants from plants to protect our DNA and modulate our gene expression, to upregulate the anti-cancer genes and downregulate the oncogenes. There's a little phrase that says eat the rainbow. So you want to get as many different colors as you can because all the different colors are different kinds of antioxidants. So every single day, get as much color on your plate as you can. And of course, fiber. We want as much fiber as we can because that sweeps the toxins out of our digestive system and it also feeds the microbiome. We want omega-3 rich foods to calm inflammation. Omega-3 is what dampens down inflammation and heals it. Omega-6 is what pushes it up and drives it. So you don't want to do your seed oils. Those are generally very rich in omega-6s. Rather use olive oil. It's got so many health benefits and anti-cancer benefits. And you can cook with it because it's safe to use at high temperatures. Of course, then our sulfur-rich foods that support liver function, your cruciferous vegetables. So I like to look at it as stacking the scales. Are we stacking the scales towards illness or are we stacking the scales towards health? And every single thing that we put in the health side just weights that side down more and more and more. So every small change you can make in every little choice that you make is going to help to stack those scales. So the healing and anti-cancer foods, your omega-3 is found in fatty fish, in walnuts, linseeds, chia seeds. I like to do a little bit of I blitz in the NutriBullet, some linseeds, some chia seeds, sunflower seeds, and pumpkin seeds, which are beautifully anti-parasitic. And then I pour that over my cereal in the morning, my beautiful organic oats. And that's very cancer preventative and also anti-inflammatory. Sulforaphane is a potent compound in the cruciferous vegetables, also something called indole 3 carbonyl. So you want to have broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, rocket every single day. Those are your beautiful cruciferous vegetables. And then quercetin is a wonderful antioxidant, which is found in onions, garlic, also in apples. So eat as much onions and garlic as you possibly can. Resveratrol is a potent anti-cancer compound, potent, and it's found in berries and red grapes. Please make sure you get organic because they are very highly sprayed. So if they're not organic, you're just basically going to be getting a lot of glyphosate. And washing and rinsing your foods doesn't get rid of the glyphosate because it's sprayed throughout its lifetime, the fruits and the vegetables. So it's actually concentrated in the flesh of the plants. Our beta glucans is immune modulating, and you find that in the common old button mushroom, as well as in our beautiful potent medicinal mushrooms, your chaga, your reishi, your turkey tail. Those are really supportive for getting your immune system resourced and on track. I eat those every single day. I put them in my organic hot chocolate. Curcumin, which you find in organic turmeric. So make sure that you're getting organic turmeric. I do my golden milk every night when I go to sleep with a little bit of pepper and olive oil and beautiful plant milk. And yeah, turmeric is effective in so many different areas of cancer growth and proliferation. And it kills cancer stem cells. Of course, your pre and your pro and prebiotics, sauerkrauts, your kimchis, chicory, your green bananas. So unripe bananas, that is full of prebiotics, which support the probiotics. Basically, it is the food for the probiotics in your gut. Apigenin is a compound found in chamomile and parsley. It is also one of the most potent anti-cancer compounds that you can have, which also deals with all the different aspects of cancer proliferation. Oranges and lemons also contain cancer-fighting compounds. Pomegranates are one of the most antioxidant-rich foods that you can get. I love pomegranates and I eat them every day when they're in season. Walnuts, linseed, pumpkin seeds, soy. And I just want to touch on phytoestrogens because a lot of people think that phytoestrogens are dangerous, especially when it comes to hormone positive cancers. And I do encourage you to please do your own research on this and make up your own mind. But all of the research that I have seen says that phytoestrogens have got a tiny, tiny, tiny estrogenic effect. It is so small, it is negligible. And what they do is they dock in the receptor site of the cell for the estrogen and they block. It's basically referred to as a natural tamoxifen, phytoestrogens. And tamoxifen is what they put people on who have got estrogen positive cancers. And it is actually a carcinogen. And it has got other long term negative impacts as well. So for me, I'm all down there with the phytoestrogens. And in fact, soy was a big part of my diet when I cured my recurrence naturally. I did a lot of mushroom teas, I did a lot of soy. And I also did a lot of fiber, soursop tea, and all sorts of other things. And I'm very happy to share my protocol. If anybody's interested, you're welcome to email me. Curcumin and Sutherlandia, actually. Sutherlandia is cancer bush. It's a indigenous plant in South Africa, bitter as all hell. A lot of the bitters actually are potent anti-cancers and anti-parasitics. And there have been amazing studies done on curcumin and Sutherlandia taken together that are showing that they are as effective at killing cancer and getting rid of tumors as certain chemotherapies are, with none of the side effects. And then, of course, our herbs and spices. There are so many herbs and spices that are potently anti-cancer. Then toxin elimination and regular detox. We should be detoxing ideally twice a year, every 6 months, otherwise at least once a year, just to give our body a clean out and a clean up, to resource our gut, to get our inflammation down, and to clear and cleanse our liver so that we can clear that beautiful water that that fish is swimming in and take it from being murky and brown and sick and stagnant to clear and vital and beautiful. And there was something that has just slipped my mind that I wanted to say around the detox side of things. Oh, yes. I had a client who did my detox, and she was a medical doctor, is a medical doctor, a registered psychiatrist, and she works in public health policy making. And she is quite overweight and was dealing with a lot of health issues. And she was, usual things, the coffee and the wine and not knowing about toxins. And by the end of the detox, she said to me, Sally, I am a completely different person. You have saved my life. I did not know it was possible to feel this good. And this is a doctor and a psychiatrist. So it just goes to show you the power of food. When we feed and nourish ourselves properly and we eliminate the bad things and the things that are hurting and harming us. I probably sound like a stuck record, but I really, really want this to sink in. We can work wonders and we feel so good. Movement and exercises, it increases antioxidants in the body. So while exercise does produce the free radicals, it also increases antioxidants as long as we're not doing strenuous exercise. It stimulates lymph flow and it increases natural killer cells. 2 minutes on a rebounder, which is a small trampoline, which I highly recommend you get, is they basically have discovered that it doubles the body's natural killer cells, doubles. This is amazing. So I've got a little rebounder in my lounge and I just jump on it for 2 minutes when I'm waiting for the kettle to boil, when I'm thinking about something, when I'm bored, just in passing, I just go and jump on it. It's the easiest thing you can possibly do. And of course, exercise increases oxygen and blood flow. And the more oxygen we have, the healthier our cells are, because cancer can't live in an oxygenated environment. And it also alkalizes the body. When there's a lack of oxygen, we become more acidic. Creates endorphins, lowers cholesterol. So we just generally feel good when we're exercising, and it promotes strength and resilience. The ideal is to exercise at least 4 times a week for half an hour. What they've actually done in studies is they've taken the blood of people that have just exercised and dripped it onto cancer cells in a petri dish, and it's killed cancer cells. Whereas before, they dropped the unexercised blood and nothing happened to the cancer cells. So it just goes to show you it really makes a marked difference in terms of your immune system activation. Whoops. Stress management. This is a really big one because stress drives cortisol, which drives inflammation, which drives cancer, and chronic stress at the root of nearly every single modern disease, as well as trauma. And it impacts our ability to digest and absorb nutrients. When we are in chronic stress, essentially we are in fight or flight. And when we're in fight or flight, what it means is the body is allocating all of our resources to the big muscle groups to basically fight or run, and it's switching off our digestion. So it has quite a big impact when this happens every single day for 12 hours a day, and maybe in stressful sleeping time as well, because we're not able to digest properly, as well as medication and glyphosate impacting our stomach acid levels. So our stomach acid is getting weaker and weaker and weaker. So we're not breaking the food down, and we're not getting the nutrients that we need. Add in these ultra processed diets that we're eating, you can see that it's just an accident waiting to happen. And it really, I hope you're starting to see how our lifestyles are driving these incredible increases in cancer diagnoses. Meditation, time in nature, breath work, therapy, boundaries is such a big one. Learn to say no, protect your time and your energy resources, especially women, because we're so giving, and we give and give and give while we are getting more and more and more depleted. And there is what's known as the cancer personality. Gabor Mate and Bessel van der Kolk talk about this quite a lot. And it's generally, mostly, they've looked at women who are pleasers and men, but they're people that don't have boundaries. They can't say no. They keep on saying yes. They keep on giving until eventually the body actually breaks, and then they have to stop and they have to look after and prioritize their own health and healing. And when we are resourced and strong, we've got so much more to give. So wouldn't it be better just to say no? And then when you say yes, you really mean it. And you've got so much more that you can do. Okay. And then, of course, gratitude is such a beautiful practice to shift mood. And every morning, just 3 things that you're grateful for, and try to do 3 different things every morning. So you really start to get creative, and schedule what brings you joy. Put it in your diary, because life comes at us thick and fast. Time is going faster and faster and faster. If we don't put it in our diary, it's not going to happen. So this is your open card invitation to make sure that you get to do something at least once a week that brings you happiness, excitement, and joy. You really do deserve it. Sleep and circadian rhythm. So there are also studies done that show that when people are out of alignment with the circadian rhythm, cancer then is increased. The circadian rhythm is essential from a hormonal perspective, and it deals with our pituitary gland and our pineal gland. So for an hour and a half, there's a certain quality of light in the morning, just as the sun crests the horizon, which is what sets our circadian rhythm. And we need to do this every single day, if possible, to go out into that morning light. And our body is then able to follow that rhythm. You know, being so far removed from nature, we're out of sync with the cycles, with the rhythms, with the seasons. We're just in this go, go, go mode every single day. And again, as women, we are cyclical beings. We are not linear beings like men. Men have a 12-hour cycle. We have a 28-day cycle. And we really need to honor this and change the way that we're working in accordance with our rhythms and our cycles. Having regular sleeping and eating times also really helps with our circadian rhythm. And then blue light is what kills melatonin. So as the sun goes down, the sun generally has got during the day very blue light, which is what wakes us up and, activates cortisol and gets us going. But our cortisol starts to decline, and then our melatonin starts to build up so that by the time we go to sleep, it heals us. So I put yellow light filters on all of my devices. You can get blue light glasses. Also, try to get off your device 2 to 3 hours before going to bed and read a good old fashioned book or a Kindle, which generally has all of the screen protection that you need. And then maintain darkness at night. If you can get to the toilet without turning on the lights, that is preferable. And if you can have blackout curtains, if you can sleep in as dark a room as possible, and that really helps the melatonin to develop, because melatonin goes around and it just heals your body while you're sleeping. And so much detoxification happens at night. Trauma healing, I mentioned shadow work, somatic therapy, tapping. We store a lot of trauma in our cells and in our body, and talk therapy can only go so far, but we really want to get into the body. So yeah, I really do encourage working with a good somatic therapist, with EFT, finding somebody that does shadow work. I do shadow work as part of my cancer healing protocols, as part of my Phoenix Path journey, which is a 12-week coaching journey where we work with the body and we work with the emotions and the spiritual side of things. So it is as holistic as it can get, because when we start shifting things through the body, it starts to move through the emotional field, through the mental field, and then our whole entire external terrain starts to shift and change in the most profound and beautiful ways. But yeah, we really need to get to that trauma healing. I could say a whole lot more about that, but I actually am going to be doing a 2-hour cancer healing workshop, and I will go a lot more deeply into some of these cancer healing topics. And then fasting. Fasting creates autophagy, which is basically when our body goes around and it scavenges all of the damaged DNA. So, as you know, damaged DNA is what starts off that cancerous reaction. So, when we're fasting, instead of digesting and detoxing and being busy with managing inflammation, all of those kinds of things, our body is then able to rest, and it switches into cleaning mode. So fasting is really good. As women, we need to do it correctly because our hormonal cycle also needs a little bit of support. There's certain times that we should fast and certain times that we shouldn't fast. And I can recommend some really great menopause fasting coaches as well, and people who can just give you a bit more insight if you are interested in taking fasting on. I really, really do recommend it. And people have actually cured advanced cancers through fasting. Some people couldn't eat because their cancer was too severe. All they did was drank water and their cancer disappeared. So fasting is incredibly potent, not for all cancers. For the cancer that I had, for triple negative, it actually feeds on the cell debris. So unfortunately, if you've got triple negative or if you know somebody, just please be a little bit more careful with fasting. We need to know what we're doing. Then, of course, we need to look at detoxing heavy metals, parasites, molds, candidas, and viruses. And there's a very interesting frequency energetics around these, where when we have a system that is out of balance, we are an energetic match for the heavy metals, for the parasites, for the molds, the candidas, and so forth. So oftentimes they can actually be doing some kind of a service for the body because of that toxicity that is in the body. For example, parasites feed on heavy metals. So if we've got high levels of heavy metals in our body, we are naturally going to have high levels of parasites. People just go in and they do a parasite cleanse, and then what happens is it just releases all of the heavy metals that they have concentrated into their tissues up to 300 times. Just immediately, it releases all of these heavy metals into the body, which causes massive toxic shock. So we don't want that to happen. And we also want to make sure when we are doing any kind of a heavy metal parasite, mold, etc. detox, that we are using correct binders. which are the things that go and attach to the toxins and escort them out of the body. Think of a bouncer going and frog marching somebody out of the club and onto the pavement. And we need the liver support because our liver is having to process through a lot more toxins. Just give me a mo. So yes, if you want more information on the order in which to do these cleanses and how to do them properly, please chat to me because it also is part of my coaching and part of the programs that I do offer. So anti-cancer supplements. These are a list of my favorite supplements and the ones that I have found to be most effective and impactful. And they down-regulate inflammatory pathways and are effective in most of the hallmarks of cancer. So MCP is modified citrus pectin, which is basically the pithy stuff in all citrus, but it has to be modified in a certain way to make it bioavailable for the body. Otherwise, it just goes straight through the system. Unfortunately, modified citrus pectin is unbelievably expensive and very difficult to get. But it is an essential part of a cancer healing protocol if somebody has got an aggressive cancer. It works on a particular protein called galactin-3, which is a vicious cancer driver. And it deactivates that. So it's really incredible. It's an incredible part of a protocol. Then apigenin, which is the compound that is found in chamomile and parsley. You need higher concentrations, though, than what you get from the amount of tea or parsley, chamomile tea or parsley that you could eat. And that also works on all of the hallmarks of cancer, as does resveratrol, which is the blue compound in the berries and in certain type of red grape. Has got the highest. Otherwise, red grapes are often just sugar bombs. So, and glyphosate sugar bombs. So, unfortunately, unless you can find organic grapes, which are difficult to find, the best rather just to avoid them. Turmeric is just one of my go-tos for everything. Incredible with killing cancer cells and also lowering inflammation. So, foundational support for the immune system is vitamin C, vitamin D3, zinc, and selenium. So we all should be supplementing with those, particularly D3, because we are not getting nearly enough. And in mainstream medical circles, what they've said is having a blood measurement of 20, I wrote this down, how it's measured, nanograms per milliliter. 20 to 30 is sufficient for your immune system. That is not at all sufficient. And that is why people are getting so sick. And vitamin D3 is hugely chemoprotective. So if your D3 levels are low, you are at greater risk of getting cancer. Like your risk is like 50 to 60% higher with low D3 levels. It's a fundamental pillar of your immune system. And I just use D3 drops. One drop is 1,000 IU. I take 2 every single day. I pushed my rates up to between 60 and 80. And that's a really good place to be because then your immune system is really firing and you know that you're not going to get sick and your chances of getting any cancers or repeats are drastically minimized. And it's not an expensive supplement to take either. And you have to take stupid amounts of it for vitamin D toxicity, which some people will warn you about. I mean, you have to take something like hundreds of thousands every day for a certain amount of time for that to happen. So please supplement with D3. If there's any one supplement that you take, let it be D3. Get your blood tests done though, because if it goes over 100, then it can start to pull calcium from the bones, and you don't want that. So this is something that you need to manage with your blood tests. If you've had any blood tests done recently, please ask your doctor what your D3 levels are. And if they say they're fine, say, thank you. What is the number? Chances are it's between 20 and 30 because most people are. Please get those levels up. Probiotics are essential because we want to get diversity in our gut microbiome and our immune modulating plants, mushrooms, andrographis. There's a whole lot of plants that really support the immune system. Willow Wellness have got a beautiful product called Immunotone, which has got a blend of all sorts of immunosupportive plants. So if you'd like to chat more about that, you're welcome to get it through me. I do Metagenics and Zymogen and Willow Wellness. I think they all are brilliant, brilliant products. They don't have any fillers, they don't have any nonsense in them. And I also offer those at a 15% discount if you order them through me. And then berberine is a brilliant glucose modulator. It also is an antiparasitic, it is an anti-candida, and an anti-cancer. So berberine is part of my everyday protocol. Vitamin B complex helps with regulating methylation, which is your DNA support and your DNA repair. So you want to have your Bs so that your DNA is supported in its repair. Your vitamins A and E, your antioxidants, and minerals. A lot of us are very deficient in minerals, and the heavy metals displace minerals from the cell receptor sites. So I do drops. I do the Bio 77 drops, and I just drink those every single day, as well as having some beautiful salt in my water. Please, not table salt, chuck it out. It's horrible stuff. Rather use your Celtic salt or your Himalayan salt or your Oryx desert salt. Those have got a beautiful spectrum of minerals. And then calcium D-glucarate is a brilliant supplement, especially if you are dealing with any hormone imbalances. It just helps to take all of the hormone chemicals out of your colon so that they don't get reabsorbed. What happens is if we've got a high meat diet, we've got a low fiber diet, our transit time is very slow, which means it takes a long time for what we eat to basically eventually get eliminated. Some people, it can be a week. And then all of those toxins are being reabsorbed into your bloodstream and circulated through your body. So, A, get those fiber levels up. And then B, you want to oh, my brain just blanked out. Yeah, you want to do the calcium D-glucarate because it just supports the liver in detoxing those. There's a cool little test that you can do called the beetroot test. You can either have beetroot juice or you can eat some beetroot, and then you will notice it when it comes out in the toilet because it'll be very dark purple, and see how long it is between eating the beetroot and when you see it coming out. That is your transit time. You want that to be twice a day. Ideally, you want to be having 2 bowel movements per day. So if you're not doing that, your transit time is slow and you've got toxic reabsorption. And then COQ10 is a really beautiful one for supporting cellular energy and supporting our mitochondria, which are the little cell batteries. NAC, ashwagandha is a really beautiful calming one that supports the nervous system. And there's loads and loads and loads more, but that really are just, those are my basics. So we're coming to the end. So just bringing natural balance back, eat good food, good organic food, avoid toxins, exercise, get out into nature, have a healthy weight, connect to others, connect to yourself, give yourself the love that you need and that you deserve, and return to nature. So, the programs that I offer, if anybody is interested in working more with me and applying anything that I've been talking about, my beginning program and a great place to start is the Cancer Prevention Program, which is a 4-week group program. And we meet on Zoom once a week, where I give you the teaching, and then each day I give you more material to learn. And we go through a beautiful, gentle detox process to resource the gut, lower the inflammation, and support the liver. And I had a woman who did this program, and she had her inflammation levels tested before she started, and again at the end of the program. And the doctor said, "Your inflammation is gone. What have you done?" And it's really purely just through detoxifying your body. It's where we need to start. And this is something that, like I said, we need to do frequently, at least twice a year. But once a year. Once a year at least. Oh, okay. You know what I mean? Then is the Phoenix Path. This is the beautiful program that I told you about. That is a 12-week individual program. I meet with my clients weekly on Zoom, and we go through a longer detox program, longer and deeper. So we can, the longer that you do a detox for, the much more deeply you can go and the more toxins are released. We also look at the heavy metals and the parasites, and we look at all of the emotional aspects, the habits, the addictions, the trauma, the repressed feelings and emotions. We do shadow work, we do inner child healing and reclamation work. And it's a very rich journey, and it is inspired and modeled on my own dark night of the soul journey that I went through. And Inanna is the goddess of the underworld, and she went through this whole underworld journey. And it is really the story, it's the heroine's path. It is the feminine journey of going down into the dark through loss, through grief, and then reclaiming all of the abandoned parts of ourself, and then ascending back into the world, rebirthed as a true version of who we are, as opposed to all of the adaptations and the compensations and the people pleasing and everything that we were before. So it's a very beautiful, very gentle, very deep, potent program. And then my cancer coaching. So I can work one-on-one with people to prevent cancer if they want to just have one-on-one coaching sessions. And I work specifically with people that have been diagnosed with cancer, supporting them how to navigate the treatment options, how to detox the body going into treatment, because the cleaner and the stronger the body is going into treatment, the less are the side effects and the easier the journey is. I've had clients go through the same chemotherapy that I went through and literally didn't miss a day of work. And they took the supplements and they did the detox. So we need to strengthen those systems, because the weaker the body is going into that kind of it's really a battle that the body goes into, the harder it's going to be. It's like going to war in your pajamas, as opposed to, like, being fit and being strong and being able to deal with all of the toxins that are coming into the body through chemo treatment and radiation and the surgeries and so forth. And yeah, we also look at piecing together the probable reasons why the person got cancer. We work with the genetics so we can see what genetic pathways need support. We work with the specific supplements that support those genetic pathways. We work with diet interventions, with toxin avoidance, and a whole lot of stuff that is very person specific. Um, yeah. So I think that is everything. And I hope that you're all still here. And I hope that this has been of value to you. And I hope that there's stuff that you can actively use in your life. And I really do hope that it can make a real difference. And, you can just jot down a few things that you can change starting from tomorrow that will help to, stack those scales on the health side and away from the disease side. So that's it, folks. Let me just see. Yeah, love your body. It's the only one you have. And then I've got some resources if you want to screenshot this. Where's my resources? Oh, goodness. I think I might have inadvertently deleted my resources. It looks like this is the last page. If you're interested in the resources, good books to read, good people to follow, podcasters, good websites, and so forth, just pop me an email and I can send that page to you. And if you've got any questions, or if you'd like to set up a 20-minute discovery call with me to speak about your specific needs and what it is that you would like to do, if you've got people who've been diagnosed with cancer, you're very welcome to recommend that they get in touch with me. Yeah, you know where to find me. You've got my email address, and otherwise just reach out on social media. Thank you for coming, everybody. Good night. Hey, Debs. How you doing? Oh, I must stop the recording. Linz, how do we stop the recording?
Oh, wait, let me just, I'm just checking.
Recording.
Recording.